Hello, this is Jayne Bryson here, and I am a naturopath, and I'm talking about drought. I know the headline has got drought. It's actually true. We have our drought in Australia, which means we have a lack of water right now, and also our bodies are really dehydrated. And when our bodies are dehydrated, because we're 75% water, so when we're dehydrated, we actually get a lot of pain. So this is actually for people that live with pain. And you know what? There's like 1 in 3 people in Australia that actually live with severe pain every single day. And majority of people over 45 years old, they actually just don't have one ailment. They usually have about 2. And in fact, every single person that I speak to, they've got something wrong. They're not 100% physically fit, mentally or physically. So what I'm going to be talking about now is really how we can stop that whole drought process within our bodies, because it's really, really important. It's causing us a lot of pain. And when you actually do have pain in different areas of your body, say we can talk about back pain, which of course is a majority of people with back pain. It's actually a dehydration problem, and you're probably thinking, how can that be dehydration problem? If I drank water, would my back pain go? Probably, maybe it might. I mean, it's worth giving it a go, but you've just got to drink the best water that you can, and I will touch on what the best water is going to be, which of course is the Kangen water. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But for now, yeah, we're looking at 1 in 3 have severe pain on a daily basis. People over 45, there's 2 ailments, not just 1. And our dehydration is actually causing us a lot of pain. Why is that? Well, pain generally, if I talk about low back pain, which many people have low back pain, they can have osteoarthritis, they can have rheumatoid arthritis. There's a lot of pain conditions that we actually have. It could even be like an old injury. Whatever the cause you think of it, we still have an inflammation and we have a dehydration problem. Why is that? Is because 80% of the pain is usually muscle spasm, 20% of the pain is generally like some sort of disc degeneration. So how did that actually happen? Well, it's called lubrication of the cartilage. And when we actually have a look at it internally, is that when your body is acid, it will produce acid in the joints, and that is things like gout and osteoarthritis. In fact, most arthritis is inflammation of the actual joint. And how do we get there? Is because we have been an acidic environment for a long period of time. So what happens is when you have cartilage, it's actually it's actually attached to, like, there's friction. I mean, it's like if that's your joint and then this is your cartilage, right? And you're moving. If I had water, or if I had, say, oil, I would, slide across and it wouldn't be a problem. And the cartilage should be alkaline, but it's not. So what happens is when there's dehydration and when there's acid in that area, it causes a lot of friction and there's no sliding movement. It's actually pretty hard. So every time when that happens, then you're going to get some sort of nerve pain. And it can be, you could have a problem with your ankle and you could get referred pain up into your hip. Like, everything is all connected. So if you were dehydrated, you're probably more likely to be open to an acidic environment, which is pain. And of course, then what happens is if that happens over a period of time and you're dehydrated and your joints can't get that lubrication, which comes from water, then what happens, you get a lot of breakdown happening within the body. So remember, wherever there's acid, there is generally pain, there's disease, and but majority it's actually pain, because most people are saying they're in pain, and low back pain is really, really big. So how do you do something about it? It's basically hydrating yourself with the best quality water. And there's many different types of waters on the market. So when you're looking at bottled water, that's okay. That's slightly better than tap water. But with bottled water, you have a majority of companies just actually filling up the water bottles with tap water, for one. 2 is that they add different minerals to it, which are inorganic and very hard for us to digest and assimilate. Then what happens, it actually builds up over a period of time. Plus, you have a lot of microplastics in the bottled water from heat, from movement. The actual chemicals in the plastics will leach into your water, and then you're actually drinking it. So that's your tap water, your bottled water. So your bottled water is really, really acid, all right, which is not good for your body. So we should be drinking anything from 7 pH above, which is alkaline. So where our body is more alkaline, then the healthier we are actually going to be. There are certain areas of your body that needs to be acid. For instance, when you're digesting food, your liver will produce bile, which is quite acidic. Your pancreatic enzymes will be made from the pancreas. You've also got hydrochloric acid within the lining of the stomach. So all of these enzymes, materials will actually help you break up the food. But your blood needs to stay at an alkaline state. But when you're buying bottled water, which states alkaline on it, then what happens is they're adding things like bicarb soda and inorganic minerals, which is really not very good for your body. And it's acid, so you're actually going to be putting yourself in an acidic environment. And then you're looking at tap water, and of course with tap water you can actually smell the water. It doesn't smell good, and they put a lot of chemicals in the water. And that's okay for a certain amount of okayness. The thing is that they put the majority is chlorine. So with chlorine, yes, it actually kills off all the bad bacteria, which we shouldn't really be absorbing in our body. But what happens is the chlorine will also kill off all of your good bacteria in your gut. And why that is not good is because then you're going to open yourself up to a lot more diseases. Your body needs to have the good bacteria to fight off all the bad bacteria. So when you actually have a low body bacteria, which is the good bacteria, you open yourself up to disease. And considering that 70% of your immune cells are made in the lining of the stomach, and if you don't have the right bacteria, that's going to be a long-term problem. And when I was in clinical practice, I found so many people had digestive issues, and I do believe is because they're dehydrated for one, and two, they're not eating the right foods. The Western diet is really, really acidic, but also just the way that they're drinking the water and that the fluids that they're drinking is really detrimental, to their health, to our health, to actually have that. So the thing is with pain management, you've got to get yourself, hydrated. And there's many different books. I mean, I've been reading quite a few books. Well, one book is, Killing Cancer, Not People, which is Dr. Robert Wright. He's a surgeon. And this is pretty awesome. He actually spends a whole chapter talking about Kangen water. And he talks about, he states in his book, he's got, I believe that ionized water is a mandatory baseline requirement for those with cancer. And I would like to just add, for really everyone on the planet, we should actually be drinking ionized water, not the tap water, which is really toxic, and also not bottled water. It's not good for our environment, and we're drinking chemicals. Plus, the absorption rate is very, very poor. So you can drink a whole cup of tap water and only absorb about 15%. That's why we're so dehydrated. So you could be drinking 1 or 2 liters of tap water and say, wow, I'm drinking lots of water. Yeah, you're drinking a lot of chemicals, plus there's no hydrogen in it, and the pH is just like neutral. So it's not really doing anything for you, so to speak. So when you've got doctors like this, Dr. Robert Wright, and he writes a whole paragraph about, ionized water, it's something that you really do need to pay attention to. There's another book here that I've been reading, You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty. Now this doctor was actually, he's done, I think he did something like a study of 3,000 people, and all he did was up the ionized water. And it's really incredible book, and he talks about every single disease, which he believes that is basically all about lack of, hydration. So we're dehydrated. There's also another doctor called Dr. Ben Johnson, and he talks about the powerful health benefits of ionized H2O, and he talks about that in his book. It's really good. He's a medical doctor. So I've got like 3 medical doctors that have written about ionized water. And guess what water is ionized? Kangen water. So what happens is when the Japanese, how they found out about ionized water is really interesting, because back more than 45 years ago in Japan, what they do in Japan is that you pay for the doctor, you pay the doctor when you're well, and then when you're sick, you don't pay. Whereas when you're looking at, especially Australia, right, we pay a lot when we actually have to, if we're sick, if we need any medical attention, that's when we pay the doctors, not in preventative. So there's no preventative medicine in Australia. So when back 45 years ago, there was a lot of acid rain coming in from China, and people were getting really, really sick just drinking this acid rain. So then what happened is a group of scientists went over to Lourdes over in France, and they tested what they called the miracle water, holy water, where back a long time ago there was a nun called Bernadette who actually saw the Mary apparition and Mary apparently pointed to the rock and said, drink the water and you will be well. So it was that exact water that the Japanese scientists actually took back to Japan, and they started to have a look at it, and they found 3 really prominent, components of this particular water. And number 1, they found it was a high alkalinity, which was good. It went up to like 9.5, which is amazing. That's what we should be drinking. Second thing, found that it was low surface tension. So when there's low surface tension, it means with water that it's easily penetratable into the cells. Remember, we're 75% water. So what happens is 45% of the water within our body is in our blood. The rest, which is more than half, is found in the intracellular and extracellular fluid around and inside our cells. So they also found that this particular water could penetrate through. And third thing they found was the amount of hydrogen was astounding. And they believed that this was the healing properties of the actual water. So through the water would pass through the rock. It would start positive. So when you've got a liquid or a food which is positive, that's acid, and that's not good for our body. But when you have a negative charge, that is good for our body. But it's very hard to find in our waterways. It's very, very hard. The tap water is about 6 pH. It's too acidic. Bottled water is exactly the same. And even when they add the chemicals to it, it will test as a high pH, but it's not very good for your body because you can't assimilate all the additives to make it the high pH that they actually add in the manufacturers when they're bottling the water. So the hydrogen, what happens is it goes through the rock and it splits the hydrogen and the oxygen molecule separate, and it becomes a really high antioxidant. And that's exactly what we need for our bodies. So not only is the water high pH, it penetrates into the cell, which is an 80% absorb rate. Like if I was drinking this cup of water here, I would be able to absorb, because it's Kangen water, I would be able to absorb 80% of that water. Now, if this was tap water, which is probably up to about there, right? So I'd be able to absorb all of that. That would go directly into my cells. Now, if I was drinking, if this was tap water, I would only be able to absorb about that much, just a little bit. The rest will go straight through my body and I lose it. So you actually have to physically drink a lot of tap water and a lot of bottled water to be hydrated, because your body cannot absorb it. The pH is neutral, if not acidic. It's got chemicals in it, which is detrimental to the way that our bodies run. And so therefore you're putting your body into this more acid state. And we know that when you're actually dehydrated, you have more pain. And especially with cartilage, especially with that within our body. So the thing is that the Japanese, they came back and of course they started building all of these contraptions to actually do exactly the same thing. So that's the Kangen machines, which actually produce it from your tap water. So it's it's pretty amazing. So in regards to the healing abilities with dehydration, I just want to read out this because this is from an MD here who's done thousands of people with study, because actually he was a political prisoner of war, and while he was actually in the prison, he started to run a lot of tests on the prisoners. He would give them a certain amount of water, and he actually found that they had less pain, less headaches, less physical ailments and mental ailments just by drinking the ionized water, which was amazing. So this doctor is pretty cool, and he's written, you know, you're not sick, you're thirsty. So we're like prunes without drinking water. But in his book, it's got here, you know, on page 151, and I'll read it. It's got cartilage cells die at a fast pace because of the constant abrasion friction in the dehydrated joint. So when the joint is actually dehydrated, that's the friction, and that's what's going to cause you pain. So unless you're going to be drinking some sort of ionized Kangen water, if you're sticking to tap and bottled water, you're not going to get the same hydration. Plus, you're going to put your body in at a worse state because of the chemicals and the low alkalinity that you're actually drinking, and there's no hydrogen. And it's the hydrogen where we have over 1,000 medical studies on it. And by the way, we have over 100 studies on the Kangen water as well, like it's a medical certified device. So it's really extraordinary. I mean, he talks about, you know, dehydration and disease. There's so many conditions, and he's got here the following conditions are produced by persistent dehydration in the fourth dimension time, the time it takes for the damage to slowly erode the body, emerge and show itself in a characteristic way that can be identified and labeled according to various symptoms we routinely come across. And he's listed it. He's listed obesity, like weight gain. He's actually listed raised low density cholesterol in the blood circulation. So we have LDLs and we have HDLs. So the HDLs is a good idea to have them higher in your body, but your LDLs need to really be low. So he's saying that you can actually, your blood glucose, your blood circulation, your cholesterol can actually be a lot better. So the thing is that all of these things, so cholesterol plaque formation, if you're dehydrated, coronary thrombosis, osteoporosis, you've got osteoarthritis, you've got heart failure, repeated strokes, juvenile diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, MS, which is multiple sclerosis. You've got muscular dystrophy, you've got Parkinson's disease, scleroderma, cancers, and AIDS. They are all basically to do with dehydration. But you've got to get exactly the right water for to make sure that your body is hydrated. So it's really extraordinary. As I said, you know, there's doctors. I mean, you've got your Dr. Mangeli. It's really hard to actually pronounce the name, but anyway, here's another doctor. And then of course you've got Dr. Johnson, and he talks about the healing powers. He mentions actually this doctor here in his book, and he's writing about his 3,000 people study. And of course, you know, Robert Wright, Killing Cancer, Not People, is really, he believes that it's paramount to drink ionized water for cancer. He's written it in his book. So, you know, once you read all these books, you just think, oh my goodness, you know, drink water. So when you do that, you know, it's totally up to you whether you want to do it or you don't want to do it. I'm really just the messenger passing on the information. But I'm telling you, if you actually have pain, I would trial the water if you don't believe it first, and just trial it and see how you go. I do water trials, and there's many people that I know do water trials as well. You just need to reach out to the person who's, you know, who you're listening to at the moment, or who's added you to my Facebook page, or if you're on YouTube, you know, have a look at the bottom, and then you can just follow my links. I've got a free ebook that you can actually download, you know, for your own reading. You can just start reading about the importance of being hydrated and getting onto not only high alkaline water, but you need the low surface tension, which is the hydrogen, and it needs to be a negatively charged water, and that's where you're going to get the healing ability. But of course, I'm not saying that this is a medical device. If you have something that is, not going so well in your body, please go and seek medical advice first, get the diagnosis and just see what the doctors actually say. But there is no harm in actually trying the Kangen water and see how you actually feel. It takes around 10 to 14 days for your body to actually flush through, get all the acid out, because you've actually got to change everything within the body, or your blood, your intracellular and extracellular fluid, which may take a little while, again 10 to 14 days. But I can say that every single person that has trialed this water, they do feel so much better, and I'm sure it's because of the alkalinity and getting rid of all the acid within the body. So I hope that has helped you. I hope that has added value. And yeah, I'm going to upload this to YouTube and also my Facebook page. Again, I've got the links down the bottom of this, and you can just click on and start educating yourself and see if you can try the water. So yeah, to your health, wealth and happiness, and until next time, bye for now.